Is your tuning a bit off when you sing? And is that leading you to believe that you can't sing or that you shouldn't sing in public? Well, I want you to know that that is a problem that about 99% of the time is fixable. And before we start looking at how to fix it, I'm going to tell you why. Only 3 to 4% of the population are tone deaf, or what's known in science as amusical. And those people have a form of neurodiversity, which basically means they don't hear pitch that well. Now, those people are not likely to be attracted to music. They're going to enjoy other things because it's just not going to hold any joy for them. So, if you have an interest in music and you want to make music, the chances are you're not tone deaf, although 15% of people call themselves tone deaf. In order to make pitch, there are quite a few things that our brain has to go through. One, your hearing and your ability to hear pitch comes into play. Then there is your physical ability to produce pitch, and that includes things like breathing, posture, how fast your vocal folds are vibrating, what kind of tension there is on your vocal folds, and whether or not your vocal folds are closing properly. And your vocal folds are a pair of flaps in your larynx that come together when you speak or sing, and we're going to look at using them effectively in this video. The other thing that comes into play is your memory. Can you accurately remember a tune? And that's harder than it sounds. Your memory very much comes into play when it comes to pitch. And then there is your sort of sensory motor skills. Perhaps your brain knows what pitch you're aiming for, but the message doesn't completely get from your brain to your voice. Now, an ENT specialist once told me that you have more control over your voice than over any other part of your body. You've got more control over your voice than over your hands. And we're going to learn in this video to access that control and make the sound we want to make. So if you've been despairing of being a singer, don't give up. We're going to do something about that pitching. By the way, having inaccurate pitching does not make you a bad singer. In fact, professional singers are auto-tuned quite often because no matter how brilliant you are, if you're running out of steam a bit, if you've got certain problems with your health that day, there are things that can go wrong that affect pitch. So little pitching inaccuracies does not make you a bad singer. So having talked about all those things, hearing, sound production, memory for sound, and sensory motor skills, let's do some exercises related to all those things to get your pitch right on track. Now, obviously that won't happen after you've used this video once. You're going to have to practice a bit, but it will come together. So the first thing I'm going to do is I'm going to sing 2 notes, and I want you to say which of these notes was the higher, the first or the second note. So I'm going to go, ah. The second note was higher and quite a bit higher. If you didn't hear that, practice this bit of the video where you're listening to notes a little bit more often on the exercises we're going to do in this part of the video. Now, which note is higher? Ah, ah. The first note was higher. One last one. Ah, ah. The second note was higher. So if you didn't hear that, don't despair. Just like rewind and listen to those little intervals again. Now, there's a reason why I'm singing these notes and not playing them on the keyboard behind me. And that is sometimes when people have a sensory motor issue with their voice, they find it easier to pitch to a human voice than to an instrument, something that sounds a bit more like the sound they're making. So if you find someone whose voice is a bit like yours, so if you're a bass baritone, maybe singing along with me isn't the best thing you can do. You might find a male voice that might help you more. But we're going to explain a bit about that later. So now let's look at some exercises around your hearing. This is a major scale and it's probably in your memory. Perhaps you learned one at school, which goes do, re, mi, fa, sol, la, ti, do. So just sing that along with me and see if you think it sounds accurate. Do, re, mi, fa, sol, la, ti, do. When you're finished doing that, and you can do that as many times as you like by winding the video back, we're going to do some really common intervals in music. And intervals are the jumps between notes that makes a tune. The first one we're going to do is a fifth, and the fifth is Star Wars. Da, da, as in da, 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 da. But if you just sing this with me a couple of times, da, 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 da. Now we're going to do the fourth, also a common interval, and it's either Amazing Grace or Auld Lang Syne. Amazing Grace, should old acquaintance, ah, ah, ah. Now we're going to do the third. It's hard to find a song with a third, and yet they're all over the place. I don't know why one's not coming to mind, but The Lord's My Shepherd. The Lord's my shepherd, ah, ah, ah. Now this is a hard one. This is the octave. This is a big jump, and it's likely to go a bit flat. But give it a go. Just try singing it with me, but do it in your own comfortable range. You don't have to sing this in exactly the same pitch as me. In fact, I'm going to do it in a few pitches so that you can pick one. And the octave is Somewhere Over the Rainbow. Somewhere over the rainbow. Ah. And if that's too high, let's try. Ah, ah, ah. Or in fact, let's try it somewhere higher. Ah. Or ah. Ah. Now this is a hard one from the point of view of hearing pitch, and this is the second, isn't do re, or do re, do re, do re, baby shark da 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 da. And I'm really sorry for putting that into your head. So those are a few little hearing exercises. If you think that it's not your hearing that's the problem, if you heard all the intervals I sang at the start, that's great. Let's move on to production. And this is what the problem is in most people who don't have good pitching. There's a few things that could be going on there. For example, air is here and sound is here. So if the air dips, if you run out of breath, the sound will go flat. Also, if you put pressure on your vocal folds, if you push them really hard, then the sound will go a bit flat because your voice needs to vibrate at a certain number of times a second to make any given frequency. And if you just tighten it a bit, it can't vibrate to the full extent it needs to make the frequency. I'll demonstrate. I'm going to find the note of G. Now I'm going to purposefully tighten my throat in the middle and hear what happens to that note. It went flat, did it not? And it also didn't sound very good. Not good. We had a problem with the pitch there. And so if your voice is tight, there's a way that we can loosen it, which is going to help with the pitch. Also, the closure of your vocal folds is important. They need to come together properly for your voice to vibrate and make the pitch. And another thing is, are you pulling your tongue back slightly? I'm going to sing that same note and pull my tongue back a little bit. It slightly changes the pitch and it also darkens the sound, as you can hear. So we don't want to be doing that necessarily. So let's look at the exercises that are going to help you with vocal production. The first thing that is really important is breathing. Now, I'm sorry, but we're going to have to stand up to do this exercise. So for this exercise, just to demonstrate to you what I want you to do, I'm going to use a stretch band so that you can watch where I'm breathing. And I'm going to tie the stretch band not under my armpits and not round my waist, but somewhere in between, around the middle of my rib cage. And then all we're going to do is breathe into the band. And out. And you can see the band expand. You can use your hands if you like and breathe into your hands. What I don't want you to do is this. Take a deep breath in and hoik up your shoulders, because hoiking up your shoulders causes tension, and that's actually, as we heard before, going to make the sound go flat. So take a deep breath into the band. And and out. Now we're going to sing something with this kind of breathing. This kind of breathing is called intercostal lateral diaphragmatic breathing. Don't expect you to remember that. Just remember, breathe out from here. No tension here, no tension here. So we're breathing in and out. Now I'm going to sing. And just count how many times I breathe to sing this little tune. What will we do with the drunken sailor? What will we do with the drunken sailor? What will we do with the drunken sailor early in the morning? I just breathed once, but if you need to breathe in the middle of that, please do. So let's sing that together. And again, you can keep rewinding this and doing it as many times as you like until you're sure that the air is supporting the sound and nothing's going off pitch. What will we do with the drunken sailor? What will we do with the drunken sailor? What will we do with the drunken sailor early in the morning? So that's the kind of breathing that we want for the best possible pitch. Now let's look at tension on the vocal folds. Do you find, if you're a lady especially, that when you get to these kind of notes, that your voice tends to tighten? That's what's called the break in the passaggio. Your voice kind of travels up and hits a ceiling around there, and it has to tilt to travel up further. So because of that gear shift, which can at first feel a bit uncomfortable until you're used to navigating it, sometimes we panic, think our voice sounds shouty, and just tighten it. And if your voice has become tight and constricted over time, you may find that the tuning in other parts of your voice has been affected. No biggie. There is an exercise that will stretch your voice. So the first thing I want you to do is lift your shoulders up to your ears and drop them. And lift your shoulders up to your ears and drop them. That just demonstrates the principle that in order to loosen a muscle, we tighten it first. And this is how we relax our larynx, our voices, to get better pitch and to take away that horrible feeling of tightness by doing this. So it's a sound almost like static electricity. It's a sound almost like TV static, and it begins with a big hard K. And I'm using my hands to let you see what's going on in your voice when you do that. Let's do that again. Now that is called the Darth Vader, that exercise. Another thing you might like to do is when you're finished singing, cool down with this little exercise. That will also loosen your voice. Let's try that again. Now, if you have got a lot of tightness in your voice when you sing, stick to these exercises for a few days. Keep doing those before moving on with the rest of this video would be my advice. Another little stretch we can do is almost like a yawn. Or a sigh. Do that in whatever pitch is comfortable for you, then a little bit higher in my case. Or a bit lower. All about loosening the larynx. The other thing I mentioned, as well as the tightness of the vocal folds and the knock-on impact and pitch, is, are your vocal folds coming together properly? Do you speak slightly like this when you speak? Is there air escaping? Or when you sing, is it very breathy, like without that being a deliberate choice? That would indicate that your vocal folds are not completely closing, and you may need to check with the doctor that there's nothing in the vocal folds, in the mechanism, stopping them from closing. If it's just a habit, you want to really focus on a y, a y sound to bring the vocal folds together. So could you sing for me? Ya, 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 ya. Ya, ya, ya. Ya, ya, ya. And then let's elongate that note with our good breathing that we just learned. Ya. Excellent. And that ya sound brings your vocal folds together. So try singing a tune you know really well just to ya. And this is going to sound bizarre, but honestly it does have a point. We're going to go ya, 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 ya. Ya, 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 ya. Ya, 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 ya. Ya, 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 ya. Was any air escaping when you did this? Or was there a nice full sound? So that means that the vocal folds are coming together, which is what we want. If you're a woman, you may find that in the lower register it is a bit breathy, that your vocal folds don't quite close quite as well. So try that somewhere mid range to start off with. That's just part of how the voice works, that happens. And actually, when you get that kind of fry sound, when you're really near the bottom of your voice, never go lower than that. And don't go there very often, because if you push your voice too low, you can actually hurt it worse than you can if you push it too high. You can distend your larynx, and that would not be a good thing, especially if you have to do a lot of talking in your home or in your job. Now we're going to look at the whole issue of remembering music. So again, we're going to sing Happy Birthday, because that's something you've probably sung hundreds, if not thousands of times in your life, that you know really well, that's really planted into your memory. So let's just sing Happy Birthday, and it's nobody's birthday in particular, unless it is your birthday, in which case, Happy Birthday. So we're just going to sing Happy birthday to you, happy birthday to you, happy birthday, happy birthday, happy birthday to you. Now sing that along with me. Happy birthday to you, happy birthday to you, happy birthday, happy birthday, happy birthday to you. Now we're going to do little sequences of notes that are actually probably unfamiliar, maybe new to you, and we're going to see how many notes you can get to and still remember the tune. So I'm going to leave a little space after each of these little note sequences for you to sing them back. Now, when I did this in a conference, the most that anybody got to was 14 notes. And so how then are we expected to remember a whole song? Well, this is why repetition is so important in music, and a good melody is made up of repetition in places so that our brains can remember it. Okay, so let's get going with the note sequences. So sing after me. Ah. So far so good. I'll do that again and sing it back. Ah. 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 Starting to get a little bit harder, is it? Ah. 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 Now, was that harder? I would replay this section and work on your musical memory. This is why when people go to concerts and the band says, "Oh, we're going to play a new song," everyone goes, because we all love to hear what is familiar. Our brains can process familiar melodies an awful lot easier than they can new ones. Now we're going to talk about the sensory motor aspect of pitch. I had a lady whose pitching was often quite inaccurate, and she was also a little bit nervous, which at first added to that. And as she got less nervous, she got less pitchy, because this short, sharp breathing you get when you're nervous and the way that you tense up doesn't help pitch. But a thing that I found completely knocked her into tune was that I played the song that she was singing. I played a backing track from YouTube through some speakers that I have in my teaching room, and she could feel physically the vibration of the sound, and that helped her to make the sound correctly. So what I would like you to do, if it's possible and if it's safe, is to touch whatever surface you've got your device set on for this exercise and feel the pitch. In fact, close your eyes as you sing the pitch to sort of feel the vibration of it. So we're going to go ah. Can you feel the vibration of that note? Let's try that again. Ah. We'll try it with a different note. Ah. Can you feel what low and high feels like in your body? So I'm going to play a chord now, which obviously I can't do on my voice, so I will have to consort the piano for this. So let's sing a note when listening to the chord. If you play guitar or you play piano or another polyphonic instrument, you can probably feel the vibration of the chords. Actually, I had a child come into my office recently who is deaf in one ear, and he said really brightly to me, I've written a song and it's in A. And he started singing, and I went over to the keyboard after he'd started singing and played the chord of A, and he was completely in pitch. And I thought, how can this kid, like, he's got perfect pitch, and yet he's deaf in one ear. He can feel the vibrations, and that helps him to make the sound accurate. Have you ever been at a gig where the music's been really, really loud and you can't hear your own voice over the amplification, but you're singing along anyway? You know what feels high and what feels low. You know when you're changing pitch. That's the sense that we want to access here. So that idea of feeling the vibration, if you want to do what I did with that student, play a YouTube backing track. It's very important that it not have a vocal in it, and just feel the vibration of the chords. Now, the reason that it's important to not have a vocal in it is when there is a vocal in a recording, we can be tricked by our brains into believing that we're singing in pitch because we're actually focusing on the pitch of the singer. And that happens quite often in choirs, apparently, where someone's a little bit out, but because everyone else around them is in pitch, they believe that the pitching is quite good. So we don't want you to hear another voice for this particular exercise. Make sure it's a track without a voice. Another thing that you can use is tuner apps, and there are many vocal tuner apps available via the Play Store. I'm sure there's plenty on the Apple Store as well. I happen to be an Android user, so I'm just really getting to know those now. For some people, having that visual really helps them to pitch. Actually, I'm going to sing two notes, and I want you to imagine the first note as red and the second note as green. I know that sounds crazy, so we're going to go red, green, red, green, red, green. Now let's just hear the notes, and I want you to imagine the colours changing. Ah, ah, ah. Now let's have red, green and yellow. Red, yellow, green, red, yellow, green, red, yellow, green. Ah, ah, ah. And imagine those colours changing in your head as you try to hit each of those notes. Ah, ah, ah. So we've looked now at the various aspects of pitching. We've looked at hearing, we've looked at production in your voice, we've looked at memory, and we've looked at sensory motor skills. Just use the part of this video which is most useful to you. If you would like a quick pitching assessment, if you want to make an appointment with me at any point to go over your pitch and get personalised exercises, just drop me an email at info@evewilliamsmusic.com. But whatever you do, don't stop singing.